Hey everybody, welcome back to Halcyon Days, the estate sale journey and beyond. Alongside me is Josh, as always. How are you, Josh?
Good, George. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's episode 9. We are just flying through this.
A crazy journey.
Yeah, looking at the report, our first podcast was published 58 days ago. Feels like a long time. So just to jump right into that, since I mentioned it, we crossed over 100 listeners, which is pretty cool. 100 downloads, I should say. I don't know about 100 listeners, but we can pretend that's the case. And then our last episode has creeped into our number 5 overall, which is pretty cool. And then we got a couple other locations. No more international, but we've got some in California, like I said, Russia, that good stuff. But in hold on, sorry, clicked the wrong button. We added a couple states, so we got Tennessee. We got Illinois. So those are the two states that we added. So there's only one in each. So welcome. We appreciate you guys.
Welcome,
Um,
welcome.
I think we might have added some more within other states that we already had. Sorry, I cut you off. But yeah, so pretty cool. We still
Awesome.
got the two listeners in Canada. Canada, eh? That's my best
It's
Canadian
always
expression.
awesome to see growth.
Yep.
So,
Growth is good.
do you want to jump right into our topic for the day? Do you want to discuss some of the exciting upcoming sales we got going on?
If you want to give a little teaser of the sale coming up, go ahead.
So, we got a sale coming up this weekend in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's going to be pretty decent sale, I think. Some new things that we haven't seen before in the state sales. Like we got one of those chairs that ride up and down the stairs. Like that'll be an interesting sell. Um, what do you think is going to be interesting about the sale, George?
I mean, it's a small sale. I think we mentioned that a little bit before. But in that there's just a bunch of like garage or basement type stuff. We've got a lot of
Yeah,
cleaning
supplies.
supplies and electrical cords and things that are not going to go for a ton of money, but we should be able to clean it out, which is really helpful for
Yeah,
the client.
that is true. Normally, like those are the things that go fast and first. Um, so the fact that it makes it the bulk of it gives me like a good impression that we'll at least leave the house mostly empty compared to other sales. I'll be interested to see if anyone's. They have a really cool table. It's like an island style table, not one that we've seen before. We've tried to like we've had a lot of dining room tables, but I think it'd be a good like family table that people would be interested in. I think a lot of people like that island style table.
Yeah, it's definitely an island bought for the kitchen, but the kitchen is so tiny that
It takes
they
it all up.
I would say an island with like a bar top because there's chairs that can go with it. So, but I mean, it is nice, and luckily we found out that you can take the top off because that thing's pretty heavy. So, but yeah, so that'd be cool. And then, like you said, we have the stair lift, which we already have that on Facebook, and we have people. Somebody actually made us an offer yesterday, but they made us an offer for $250, and I said thanks, but no thanks. And then, I mean, there's just like some furniture, that's a little bit
Not
older.
much.
Not much. There's some antique writing desks, two of them
A lot of
actually,
books.
one with a hutch, a lot of books. So, I mean, it'll be. We have the sale for 3 days, but we probably didn't need to have a sale for 3 days. But we're just trying to capitalize on all the different customers so that we can get it empty for them because they're it's already actually pre-listed. They've already got the realtor, and which is it's Delinda who we've had on here, which is pretty cool. And then the stagers coming in, I believe on Sunday or Monday, in our sale.
Mm,
I think on Monday, so they're ready to get it going. As soon as they
hmm.
stage it, they'll have it out there and listed, and all the pictures and goodies. So it should be fun, and hopefully we get a lot of people. we don't have a huge Harrisburg customer base, so hopefully this will bring some people in and help us grow that
Yeah,
way.
we've had I think one or two sales around Harrisburg, but this is our first sale inside the Harrisburg city. So that'll be pretty exciting. Different traffic, obviously being in the city versus on the outskirts or in the suburbs or even like right across the bridge. But it's it'll be exciting. And then we have one coming up after that out in Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Hmm. Yep.
That'll be our first sale in that area. That one will also be a smaller. You said smaller sale. You're the one who toured the house.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be significantly smaller, but there's higher priced items. So,
Yeah.
for instance, he's got it's probably bigger than 65 inch. I didn't measure it, but it's an 8K TV,
Mm,
and it's LG. So, with all of that combination, we probably can sell that TV for almost what we'll make in this entire sale. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So, the potential for earnings a little bit higher at that sale. He's got other stuff too, but that's kind of the crown jewel.
Yep. Our topic for the day is estate sale organizing tips for seniors. Um, Specifically seniors, just because that generally seems to be the demographic for estate sales. I mean, obviously you can hold an estate sale if you're younger, if you're downsizing or divorce or whatever. But typically, when you think of estate sales, you think of senior age approximately.
Yeah,
Uh,
and if you're listening to this and you're not a senior, it's still valuable to you because what you're gonna like, hopefully you'll hear some tips that you can help with seniors in your life who are about to go through this process, and
or if
you
your
can give
parents.
them some, yeah, you can give them some advice and kind of help them along as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of we interact with a lot of kids who are helping their parents out, or their aunt or uncle, or their grandparent, and a lot of them just they don't know what to do, so they just start doing things, and it actually can hurt them in the long run if they're planning on hosting an estate sale. So, well, we really want to take some time just to discuss just some things that we have noticed and some things that we think might be useful to our clients and other clients in your area if you're thinking about having someone host an estate sale. So, um, I'll start it off. So the first part of today's topic is just like taking it slow and starting early, right? So the first thing you kind of have to do is think about what the downsizing process looks like and how that's going to change with the amount of space that you have, right? So depending on if you're going into assisted living, if you're going in to move in with someone that's close to you, like a son or a nephew or a niece, it's going to change what you can and can't bring, right? So first, I would say you got to find out what needs to like what you can and can't bring, right? Like what's going to change in the space around you, um, and then from there you can begin to organize. Okay, so like these are the things I can take, and start categorizing it based off can take versus can't take.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's important. So if you do this ahead of time, like you're saying, that you don't have to do it all at once and you don't get overwhelmed. So if you break it down, little by little, if you're way ahead of the game, you're gonna have an opportunity to get some clear-headed decisions without getting overwhelmed with the entire scale of the process.
Yeah, a lot of clients have gotten overwhelmed when they start going through stuff because they try to take on too much at once, and then they freeze, or then they get overwhelmed and they break down. Especially when you're trying to pack up an entire house or try to figure out like what can you take, can't you take. So starting early and then organizing based off the guidelines that realistically that you can take, right? Um, so like for example, right, if you're going someplace that's already going to have a bed, right? Um, then you don't need to take your bed, right? So you don't need to start stressing out about like finding space for the bed. um, or maybe you're not going to take your sofa or like the bigger items, right? But then there's the smaller things because if you're moving into assisted living, there's limited space, right? So an entire house is going to fit into a one bedroom, limited space elderly assistance home. And that specifically, I think, is where a lot of the breakdown starts to happen. Trying to figure out what knickknacks you can take, how many clothing items you can take, all the pictures in their house. That seems to be kind of like a lot of the frustration that I've seen when interacting with clients. Um,
You have to remember, like this whole downsizing thing as a generation is pretty new. Like the generation before, the parents of the people who we're dealing with now, who have passed on, most of them would live in their same house their entire life and die in the house.
yeah,
um that's just how it was. It was almost a pride thing. People, sibling, I mean, sons, daughters, whatever, might come and stay at their house and live with them. But it was always at the house. This generation is really the first as a large scale, where the either the children don't have the resources, or whatever the case may be. And it's basically, in today's day and age, impossible to take on another person. So that whole process of, living in the house until you die, that's kind of ended. So this is kind of a big movement in the generation that's like a little above me, to be honest. So it's like my mom my mom was a young mom. I'm 46, she's 66. She has already moved multiple times. That mentality of being in that one home your whole
yeah,
life is almost gone. So this is kind of like, it's tough to be able to say, like, I'm leaving this place where all these memories are.
yeah. I think that's a big key factor, especially now that I think technology has really changed that demographic. I mean, before like you would live near your parents so that you could see your parents. So the kids would be able to be there to help parents out. But now with the age of technology, you can move across the country and still be able to physically see your parents or see your grandchildren or whatever. Um, but people are more likely to up and relocate for a job, or for better opportunities. So there's definitely a different mindset in today's age than there was 30, 40 years ago. Um, so like going with starting early, taking it slow. You have to set realistic timelines, right? So it's right now we're in March, right? If you know you're moving into assisted living in say June, right? Like you have a timeline of 3 months, approximately 3 months, right? So what do you need to accomplish in 3 months to make sure that when you move in June, you're taking everything that you need to take with you, right? And to do that, like I would consider maybe enlisting some help, whether it be family members, or professionals. Like if you're working with a realtor, they'll tell you like what their timeline is, like in order to start selling the house. If you're moving into assisted living, they'll tell you what you can and can't take. Right, certain assisted living buildings have restrictions on items that can't come into their homes based off uh, state regulations, or maybe they already provide that, right? Like, so you may not need a fridge, you may not need basic appliances, you may not need a sofa, or maybe they provide a bed. It all varies. So once again, like getting that in advance can really help you prepare for that journey.
I concur.
I'm glad you concur, George. Uh, do you have anything else you want to add in for starting early and taking it slow?
No, I mean, I think we covered it. I think my focus is always on, the actual client, right? Like helping them experience it as least traumatically as possible, because we understand how difficult it is. So I think that's kind of why, like, this episode is important, to kind of follow these timelines. And I think we do come across people who wait till the last minute, and then
Yeah,
it is overwhelming. And but we've got tips all throughout this that are gonna hopefully help with that. You know, at least ease it. It's not gonna be easy because of these tips, but it should be less difficult. If that makes sense.
it does. Yeah, I agree with that. Waiting to the last minute can definitely impact especially if you're planning on hosting an estate sale or even just moving. It just impacts that feeling of being rushed, right? If all of a sudden now you only have 2 weeks to host an estate sale, then you have to rush the company in to get your house organized for the sale. If you're holding off, waiting to the last minute, like it's March, if you know you're moving in June and you wait till the first week of June to start packing, and now all of a sudden you have to pack up an entire house and figure out where it's all going to go, you're definitely going to feel rushed. So starting early is definitely going to help you not feel that sensation when you get to that critical time. But going into the next segment, I think focus on what matters most is really important. So we have the timeline. You start working what you can, what you can't take. Then you get into all like the nitty gritty, like the knickknacks, the pictures, the smaller items, right? So you have to really break it down and figure out, okay, what can I take? What it has had the most impact on my life? What holds the most value in my heart, in my mind? And prioritize those items, the sentimental items, over like all of like the everyday things, right? Um, like we get a lot of pictures left in houses because everyone is so focused on packing up pots and pans and salt and pepper shakers and cups or clothing from the bedroom that they forget like the memories, right? And once again, you're moving potentially from a giant 3, 4 bedroom house into a small 1, 2 bedroom, assisted living place. Maybe you're moving with a family member, right? So obviously, like you're not going to be able to take every picture with you or every sentimental piece with you. So it's important to figure out what is the most sentimental.
Well, with pictures, again, talking about the generation, the seniors, they were the generation of photo albums. They were the generation of
Mhm.
film. We have our phones and Facebook and everything else wherever we post our pictures, right? They're all digital, and the idea is that we'll have them forever. You know, for instance, I have a 4 terabyte external storage that just has family photos.
Yeah.
Like we download it off of our phones, and it's there. I don't know when we're ever gonna look at it, but it's there. You know, but that happens. So along the time, you fill up a photo album, and you put the photo album away,
In a
and then you
box.
fill out another photo album, and you put the photo album away, right? And then, like for instance, you found one of those the other day at the house that we're doing, and
Yeah.
the family completely overlooked it, and you found a photo album that was actually passed on to
From family
our
members.
client who is the senior. So these are people that are like multi generations, removed,
It's
and
like her family history, her entire
yeah,
family history.
and that's the kind of stuff that, because of the overwhelming process, got overlooked.
Yeah.
They didn't go through each box and each place. They didn't have the opportunity to actually go through the whole house and say, oh, this is important to me. So if they were ahead of the game a little bit, and actually like took like room by room and went through everything, um and sometimes they may need a family member's help for this. Maybe they don't have the strength or ability, the physical ability to do it, but hopefully, they have this opportunity to do it. So,
Yeah. And I mean, it does like photos are an easy one to talk about. I mean, I think every person out there who looks fondly back on like their childhood memories, they can remember specific items in their house that belong to their mom or their dad or their guardian. That if they were to pass away, they would like to take with, like keep for themselves.
hmm
Something that like represents a memory. Like I know for me, like my mom, who is still alive, um, but she used to collect like little cardinal bird statues, and I think she still has a couple of them. That like if she were to pass away, like I would want to take one as like a memory, a trinket of like
hmm
a memory from my childhood. And so like you get a lot of those, so it definitely helps, like because obviously once again you can't take every single knickknack, every single little statue to where you're going, right? So it helps when you get your family to come in and say like what would you guys like to take for you, because once you get a lot of that out, that you already know that you're not taking, it definitely can free up a lot of space around you to help you start really organizing for like to continue the next step,
Hmm.
right?
If you are planning this ahead of time, and you're going through this process, I think we have it in our list here. I think one of the most significant things you can do is have a list. Take, leave, whatever. Um, and in that list, you can even give yourself a reason why, right? So, like, keep this because da da da, right? And then once you've got that list, it should make the process a little easier, because once you put it on the leave, you leave it. You don't second guess it anymore. You don't think about it anymore. Any of that stuff. Um, but I think that transitioning into the next topic involving family and loved ones, I think that's kind of a smooth transition where that comes in, right? So these things like the birds that you're talking about, right? You can't take them with you, right? So, but you know that they have sentimental value, at least the
Yeah,
like familial like memories, right?
right.
Where like little Susie, this is like
You used to
from
love come
she
playing with
got
the
this
birds.
award, like whatever it is, right? So like little Susie is now an adult, and little Susie might want the little Susie who's now Susie or Susan, right? She may want that piece. So like those items that you have that sentimental value for that you don't want to sell, you want to involve the loved ones in that being, and you want to ask them, like, is this something that you would want when I move, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I know we're into like the next topic, but there was just some other things that I wanted to touch on. Like you
Okay.
kind of already did, like just making sure that like um when you have collections of things, like what is the most important of those collections? What do you need to leave behind, right? Because everyone collects something, right? And not every piece of that collection truly holds like the same value as certain pieces. Um, we talked about creating a list, letting it go. Involving the family is like a really can be really helpful there, because you'd be surprised sometimes of those collections. Maybe like we'll use the birds as an example just because it's an easy example, right? But like maybe like you took each grandkid out and each grandkid bought a bird with you, right? So like that sentimental value to you that they might, maybe Susan and William, who used to go by Billy, like he wants the bird, like he wants that bird that he bought with you because it's a memory of you. Um, but it definitely can help narrow down some of those barriers getting family involved. Um, get family members to be honest with you. Ask them for feedback, especially if you're moving in with them. Like mom, we have a more comfortable bed, or you don't need all these pots and pans because we have pots and pans, right? Like you don't need to worry about packing them up, right? Like you can use our pots and pans, right? Maybe some of the smaller items you can bring or whatever, but like they know the space that you're moving into. Um, maybe in your assisted living place, you don't even need to cook like meal dinner and like all of your food's provided for you, right? So maybe like that's the reason. Like you might think like, oh, but I might need this, but realistically you may not. So having family be open and honest with you can really help like navigate some of that like what if space. I guess like another thing that this can be kind of problematic, but it's important to be open about it. So like be open and honest like with your family members of like what you want them to take, right? A lot of times like we've seen when there's multiple kids involved, certain children wanting specific things, and then you have the issue of like two children wanting the same specific thing. So,
Yeah.
especially when you're starting early, if you know that that's going to be an issue, right? Like you can kind of preface this is going to child one, this is going to child two, right? I know child two might want what child one is getting, but this is why child one's getting this is why child two's getting this, right? And explaining
Yeah.
that to them so they know the sentimental value. So that there's not that infighting over possessions from mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or aunt and uncle.
Yeah. The communication has to stay completely clear, like you're saying. But I think, you're never going to get the emotion completely out of it. So I think having like, as the younger person coming in to help in this situation, I would say make sure that you have the compassion and you become a little selfless, even though it's stressful for you, and even though it's becoming, like it's a lot of work for you potentially, as the child or the niece or nephew or whoever is coming in to help. The needs and wants of the person moving is the top priority in this case. If you think about like a wedding, right, and the bride is the person who gets everything that she wants, right? No matter what the case is, you cater to the bride. This is a similar situation, where you have to understand, even though this might be a burden for you, that this is something that is going to be a lot more stress for the person moving, even if they hide the emotions. When they're by themselves and they're thinking about letting go of all these memories, it's not an easy time for them. So
It's now
when you talk about like the arguments or infighting, like that kind of stuff, everybody involved needs to just
take a
stop
step
for a
back.
minute, yeah, and realize what's actually happening, and come to an agreement about what's going to best honor the person or their belongings. You know.
Yep. Um, and so like that kind of like my comment about like explaining the why behind it, like that might go into kind of our next topic. Consider legacy and preservation, right? So explaining to the children or the family members why what the history behind this piece is and why you want to give it to them, right? Or flip it around, right? Like why as the the person whose parent or loved one is moving into assisted living or downsizing, whatever the case is, might want that piece of history or family heirloom. um, Sharing in that history can really help separate family heirlooms versus sellable items or items to be left behind. Um, there's, I think, I mean, we'll kind of jump around on topics here, specifically bullet points or whatever. But like you had mentioned, like photo albums, right? This is
Mhm.
in today's age, this is an easy one, right? Like, because now you can send all of your photo albums to be digitized, right? And
Right.
now you
Bring them
have,
into this century.
right, right. So now you don't need to worry about, packing up 20 boxes of photo albums because they're on one 4 terabyte hard drive that is in the cloud as well, right? Uh, so there's things that you can do to really help out your significant, the people who are going through this, or to plan and prepare, right? So once again, it's March, you're moving in June, right? Like you can send those out now, so that it's not something you have to worry about in June, right? Um, and then once again, bring the family into it. Be like, hey, this is what I've done. Now everyone can look back at the photos from anywhere, right? Like, and explain that, and give them the opportunity. Maybe they do want a physical photo that they can take that physical photo and hang it on their own walls or whatever. But it can really help sort through some of the cases. Like, you guys would be shocked at some of the houses where they're literally it's like a wall of photo boxes, and all that's on that wall is boxes of photos, right? And it takes up a lot of
Mhm.
space. It takes up a lot of space.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of being able to take pictures of these things, we've talked about it a little bit before, and I think it's great advice, and it's worked. We've seen it firsthand. The sale that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, the woman's lovely. This is a very hard transition for her. It's very difficult, and there were things that she was going to take, and in that conversation, I had talked about taking pictures of everything, that isn't going to fit, because it's not the item that you're really attached to. It's the memories, and
Hmm.
you can get that by the picture. You can look at that picture and it's going to bring you back the same memories as as if it was in front of you, as if the item was in front of you. So I think having patience and explaining that and even showing them, whether it's like on a tablet or something like that, right? Like if you use Dropbox or a million other cloud service industries, just showing her how you just touch the icon, or her, whatever, but her, him, um, just the simple little patience about showing them how to get to it, and giving them some grace, because that's it's technology, which is nothing that they've necessarily embraced yet.
Yeah,
Because her, like, the generation now that we're talking about is like the last generation pre-technology, right? And there's lots of people in seniors now that are great with technology because they've adapted. My father was very good with technology before he passed. He's a touch under what we're talking about, but still. So like that patience and grace around this kind of thing, I think, is really important. But once they get it, they're going to be extremely happy.
yeah,
So
yeah. I no, I agree, and I think it kind of like goes back a little bit in topics, but I think it's important to be honest with someone when they're downsizing, especially if, say, this person's moving in with you. Right? We've had a lot of clients whose kids or nephews or nieces, when they're moving in with them, have caved, and they've told us how frustrating it can be, but how much they end up taking and putting a lot of the stuff in storage. And realistically, that stuff is going to sit in storage, and then at some point that person will not need any of it for whatever reason. Maybe they move from that person's house into actual assisted living, or they
mhm.
pass on or whatever, and now that stuff is just sat in storage, with realistically never like intending to be used again. um it's a very delicate balance, but there still needs to be that balance, like understanding, like, hey, I understand that this was your bed for X years, right? But like, why don't we try to get some use out of it rather than sticking it in storage or sticking it in the garage,
Mhm.
right? Like, how can you maximize your valued possessions versus it just collecting dust somewhere? Because I mean, it's not even like they're taking it with them to look at, right? It's literally going from here to a storage unit that you might go to once a month to put more items in,
Yeah.
right? And that might it might seem a little cold, uh, but it's a realistic thing. If you've ever gone through downsizing, it's something that you'll understand. But I mean, I think we've even recently had two or three clients who have really talked about like the frustrations of like going through that process and like having those conversations. But you got to be real and you got to be upfront.
Our client, our current client right now, they have the patience of many saints because they helped. They live almost 2 hours away, and they drive up. They've helped pack everything up, and I mean they're not spring chickens. Like, this is not easy work, and they're a little bit older than us. So they came in, they packed everything up. They told her that it's not all gonna fit. She wanted to take it anyway. They moved it all over. It didn't fit. They took it back, and they've gone back and forth a couple times just to try to, like, ease her mind and not lose it. Which I told them they have probably more patience than I would ever have, which I'm grateful, and I'm sure in this scenario it's their aunt. So I'm sure their aunt appreciates it when it's all said and done. You know, the effort was made to hear them, value what they say, and then still ultimately show them it doesn't fit now. Now you understand, so there won't be any like regret saying I wish I had this, I wish I had that. So I mean
Yeah,
that's
pretty considerate.
the support. The support is huge.
Yep. So we talked a lot about like seeking up with families, getting in families involved. But eventually you get to the stage where you need to get like the professionals involved, whether it be an estate sale company, a realtor, maybe the organization of the assisted living facilities you're living moving into. And kind of want to break down what that kind of process can look like and how that can benefit you. So first off, I would say research. If you're going to host an estate sale, research the estate sale companies in your area. Research, look at reviews, look at their websites, see what people are saying about them, right? Decide whether you're going to do an auction or you're going to do an estate sale. And then meet with a couple people. Don't just go with the first one that you meet with. You'd be surprised what different companies will quote, right? Because maybe they're a newer company, maybe they've been around a long time, so maybe they charge a higher fee, right? Um, maybe they do different things and leave certain things, right? Like so, certain companies will come in and they'll take what they want for auction, and then you're expected to deal with the rest. Whereas maybe an estate sale company, they're going to try to sell everything for you, and then help you with next or what happens with the stuff that doesn't sell. Um, and there are specific professionals who specialize working with seniors, right? Well, we specifically partner with a realtor. Her name's Belinda, who she's been on our podcast before, but her specialty in being a realtor is with 55 plus,
Hmm.
right? Like that's her specialty, right? So she knows the struggles of going through downsizing, moving into assisted living, um, and she can really help point people in the right direction because she specializes in that, or an estate sale company specializes in that process. Uh,
Yeah,
you have anything
I
you want to
think
add?
I think when you have a realtor that you trust, and someone who's got the reputation of someone like Delinda, when they recommend somebody, that means a lot, right? So I know Delinda has a network of people that do all kinds of things for seniors. We're just one of the people that we were lucky enough to meet her. And the when you're vetting, these companies, your realtor, you should have a great relationship with your realtor, hopefully, because they're in it. They're kind of like the wealth of knowledge for you. So if you're, no matter where you are, if you're listening to this in Kansas, if you've got a realtor out there and you need help with downsizing or getting rid of the stuff, they're going to know somebody, right? Um, and they're gonna give you a recommendation, you know. But ultimately, you're gonna meet with them, you're gonna talk with them, and it's gonna have to feel right. I would say a lot of it to me is kind of trust your gut, you know. For us, we're a small company, and we don't have like the marketing power of these corporate places. But I can tell you that type of mentality, the corporate mentality, they're mostly franchises, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the people who are doing what we're doing are paying a corporation money to use their name, right? And then they need to make that money up somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Which means they're charging, and they always come with like four employees or so, and a lot of that money goes to paying the employees, and then their fees. So having somebody that works
Can
directly with
navigate.
people, it I think is really huge.
Right.
Our whole business for us is just personal. We take it personally, um, and we rely heavily on word of mouth. I mean, that is the biggest thing. So,
A small
um,
company, yeah, for sure,
yeah,
for sure, for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and like going back to topic one, like meet with like as soon as you know you have a date, right? As soon as you're thinking about it, meet with that realtor because they can really help you start to navigate, you know, what you need to do at what steps and create kind of like a timeline for you to help you stay organized. Like I know when we've worked with Dylan, and Dylan, by the way, Dylan is not a sponsor. She's just someone we've partnered with. We
Mm,
don't have any sponsors for our show, but just to make that clear, that we're not talking about Delinda because she's a sponsor. We just believe in what she does because we've seen how beneficial it is. But she, when we have worked with her, has sent us specific timelines of like when things are going to be happening. And even though we might only be one blip on that timeline, I can see like the benefit of like, okay, this helps the people stay organized with like, okay, they need to be out of the house by this date so that we can come in and do this job. And then after us, someone's coming in to do that job, right? So they can really help you stay organized. Um,
yeah, I think just one more thing about Delinda, based off of like what we are, she's very like minded in the terms of her motivation is to take care of the person, right? Like obviously you want to make money. We all want to make money. We talked about that last podcast. We are a business. We need to make money. Um, but I think there's plenty of room to put the client first and to consider their thoughts and emotions and to have patience and to give grace. And I
yeah.
think she does all of that, which I think, which is why we've kind of aligned so smoothly. So,
Yeah, and then just the last part, I'm like kind of like going back to starting early, knowing that you are compatible with a realtor, can really help the process. There's no frustrating thing when like you need to be out by the end of the month, and then you start with 45 days left. It really can hinder the process, and then you find out that maybe the realtor rubs you the wrong way, or maybe they're not as helpful. Maybe they're newer to being a realtor, so they don't know a lot of contacts. Whereas generally after meeting a couple times, you can kind of get a really good feel. Okay, like this is the person that we're going to vibe with, right? This is the person that we get along with. We like their personality. We like their mission. They seem like they're really trying to help us. So we're going to go with that person. And I mean, you can request references. You can, I mean, with the internet, you can see references based off Google reviews, Yelp reviews, things that customers have said about them, maybe on their realtor website. Or if you're working with like an auctioneer company, a state sale company, like you can see what people are saying similar. You Google, Yelp, what reviews people have left them from past clients. And I mean, if you've seen, the more uh, customer reviews they have and the higher stars they have, like that tends to be a good indication of, okay, these people are trustworthy, right? Like especially when it comes to like assisting you in those specific processes.
yeah.
um
And read the reviews. Don't just look at the
right.
stars because, there could be like bots out there just giving fake reviews. Like if you see like thousands of reviews and they all say the same thing, um, you want to read them, make sure they're actual real
Yeah.
reviews.
And then their realtor can generally, because of their contacts, they're going to know a company or a couple companies to refer you to using, right? So you don't really have to do as much research. Especially if you trust your realtor, you'll trust their judgment on like what company they think that would best fit your needs, right? Um, they I mean, so many realtors have contacted us specifically for jobs, right? A lot of times there's been several jobs where we never even met the client until after the sale to hand them the check, or even at all because we went through the realtor as the point of contact from start
Hmm.
to finish, right? Uh, so your realtors can really be a big asset to assisting you through that part of the process.
Yep. And then to finish this off, the when you're speaking with whoever the professional people are that you're speaking with, make sure that you have clear expectations and you explain them. So we talked about, as a company, what we give them, what our expectations are, and we tell them what we honestly think and that kind of thing. But if your goal is to make as much money as possible because you need it for X, Y, and Z, then the companies can tell you honestly whether or not you're going to hit that goal, or whether they think you're going to hit that goal, um, or if that's an unrealistic expectation, or if your goal is to say, I need everything gone, just please try to get rid of it, then that'll give us a different expectation so that we know on day 3 we can really really cut these prices to get things gone.
Yeah.
and that becomes the higher priority over the dollar amount. So just
Yeah.
being clear about what you expect, what you want.
Yeah. That kind of like takes us into like the next and final topic of today's episode. So as you're starting to go through this journey and start this process, it's very easy to start doing certain things to try to clear up space. Don't throw anything away.
I can't. We have said that in every episode, and it, I'm just going to jump in on that point. I went to see a house that we're going to be doing in April, and I had spoken to the gentleman on the phone first, and it's his brother who passed away. His brother was, I think, 77, and his sister was coming to the house, and she was going through the closet to throw away all the clothes. And I had spoken to him, and he immediately, after I talked to him, he called his sister and said, "Don't throw away the clothes." He said, "Don't throw away anything," because they were like, "Oh, no one's gonna want these." That's
Yeah.
the mindset you have to get out of, because we've said it so many times on this. I mean, multiple times on this podcast alone, but with our clients, like, don't throw things away.
Yeah.
It's like the number one thing that anybody ever says with estate sales. Just don't throw it away. Like, if you're gonna throw things away, just wait till after the sale.
Right.
You're gonna throw it
Same
away anyway.
same
Just wait.
same thing with donating. Right. Yeah. So like in addition to like throwing things away, like don't donate, right? Like wait till after the sale. There's like that need and that want to donate because you want to help. But obviously, like if you're going through this process, like you're going to need money, right? Whether you're moving into assisted living or downsizing, whatever the case may be, like you want to maximize what you're putting in your pocket. There will be people. There will still. I can promise you. I can promise you there will still be things to donate after an estate sale, right? Um, but you want to make sure that if you're going to go through this process, that like you're walking away with as much money as you possibly can. So donating things, throwing things away, um, unnecessarily packing things up into storage, that all hurts you as the client, uh, for like versus helping, right?
Well,
Uh,
the storage thing doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. Like, one, you're adding a cost, and
yeah,
two, you're downsizing now. Like, you're not planning on moving into a larger place after you just downsized. Like, this is not a transitional period. This is the period.
yeah,
Like, there's not.
that's a good point.
So that this is where family members come in and really have to say, like, I think that's silly. There's no reason to put it in the storage. If we get everybody, if you're doing it early enough now, like we talked about, and you get your family members involved, they can pick through the stuff ahead of time, get the items that they want to get, and whatever's left over, that makes absolutely no sense to go into storage. So,
Hmm.
like, that has to be kind of made sure that family members are really having that conversation.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, so, and when you partner with a state sale company or you partner with a realtor, they will know donation companies. They'll know charities that take certain things. Um, one of like the things that like is one of our lists is like to do research. So if you think of something is valuable, it's okay to do research. You can let the company or like working with know, hey, this is what we think this is valued, right? More than likely, they'll have appraisers themselves look at something. Um, I would say, I mean, I would caution, if you are dealing with a company and they come in and they immediately want to buy something, I would definitely get a second opinion, right? Like if like they as the company wants to buy a specific item, I would get a second opinion, uh, just to make sure. I want to immediately say accept an offer, from a company standpoint. We've had clients who have told us, they were working with a company and they wanted to buy this piece, and this is what they offered. And when we've gotten it appraised, it was valued much higher, right? It can just be a red flag. Um, but I know like we'll go and look up the local charities donations and we'll reach out to them in advance of a sale to see like, hey, we're having an estate sale. This is, what's your timeline? Like, when do we have to tell you what do you need in order to accept donations from us, right? Same with realtors; they have that whole process locked down. So they can really help you navigate the aftermath of a sale.
Yeah. And it's okay to do research on like charities that you are comfortable with too, right? So like if you're saying, you know, I would really like to donate my stuff to this charity, wait until the sale's over, and then whatever's left over, you can still.
Do
It's
that.
not like the estate sale company has to choose the charity, you know.
Yeah,
So like whatever you're comfortable with, you know, you can say I really like these people, I want it to go here, and we're not going to argue with you.
absolutely. And I mean, there are additional there are additional items out there. Like you can take clothing items if you don't want to necessarily donate. You can take them to like a consignment store, where you're still able to get money maybe after the sale, but it's not staying in the house. Um, but once again, like your realtor can potentially help you navigate that. The estate sale company can make recommendations of consignment stores in the area. They generally will partner with people in advance because they're working in that area. But the main point of our final topic is don't throw things away. Uh, just because you like it, and here's where a lot of it generally comes from. So I, as the child, am going to clean out mom's house, and this has been sitting in the same room in the same spot for 20 years. Right? It is no one's gonna want it. Right? So I'm gonna throw it away finally. Right? Because it's no longer needed. She's not taking it with her. It's going in the like someone might buy it, right? Don't throw things away. Let the companies determine what's valuable, what's not valuable.
Yeah. I heard on a podcast the other day, the guy had they had a dumpster at the house before he even came there to even check out the house. So he went in and did a little dumpster diving and found an 1800s guitar. I forget the brand, but it was worth a lot of money, and it had a crack in it, like a small crack somewhere in it. And the woman was like, "Oh, it's broken. It's not worth anything." And he's like, "It's worth over $1,000 in the condition that it's in." You know, like you literally, if you're not an
Don't.
expert in something, don't throw it away. Just don't. Just wait. Like you're gonna throw it away anyway. The worst case scenario is that you have less to throw away. You know,
Yeah,
um, so just please don't throw things away.
yeah. All right, George, do you want to close out our summary topic?
I mean, it, really, like it's just about patience. It's about making sure you're ahead of the game, making sure that you've given yourself enough time to not be overwhelmed. You know, enlist the help of your family and professionals around. You know, like I said and Josh said multiple times, your realtor is a great person. Hopefully, if you've got a good realtor, they are the network that kind of connects everything for you. You know, so you know they recommend. I mean, we've been recommended by realtors for a lot of the jobs that we have. You know, so it just makes sense, and they become the go between for everybody. I mean, they're really awesome at what they do, and then one of the most important things we've said a million times, and we're going to continue to say is don't throw things away, like we just said. Please don't throw things away. I don't know if we said it yet. Don't throw things away. Let's be clear. So I mean, that's basically the gist of everything.
Yep. With that being said, this has been Halcyon Days, the estate sale journey and beyond, our podcast. Like and subscribe wherever you're watching, and we'll be back next week.
All right. Peace out.
Cub Scout.